Penang Institute, right? We're doing two tests. Just 1 second. Then we can go live. Okay. I'm already live. Just test. I didn't see anything. Testing.
Mic test. Mic test 1, 2. Mic test. Testing 1. Testing. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We have a small crowd, but I'm pretty sure it's good enough. Alright, because we're also streaming live, so I'm trying to coordinate with my colleagues here. So welcome to Penang Institute. Thanks a lot for coming. Tonight we have our author here, Kévin Poncelet. Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't really read the last name. But Kévin, he's an amazing person, right? From an international trade background to insurance broker, he got his MBA, and then he started investing, and now he's an author based in Penang. I wonder what is he thinking. Anyway, let's hear from him, not from me. So please welcome Kévin to share about his book before we go into a discussion. So Kévin, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you all for being here today to talk about investing. First of all, I would like to say sorry because I'm terrible with microphone. So the sound is not going to be great with me. I'm just not great with it. Yeah. So I know that investing can be frightening, can be overwhelming, but today I'm going to try to make it as easy, as comprehensible as possible. So if we can start with the presentation. Can put on the forward. All right.
Why does it say that?
And we can go directly to the next slide. All right, so today in this presentation, we are going to first introduce the topic. Then I'm going to talk about why investing, how to invest, what to invest. That would be much easier thinking. What to invest, and finally, how to create your investment plan. So, I would like to start by sharing a little secret with you.
Testing was fine. It's just not
The secret to wealth, actually. If you've seen online, a lot of people might say, okay, I find the secret to wealth. I find you 5 easy steps to follow to get rich quick. But the truth is, there is actually no secret to wealth. Because there is only 2 ways to be wealthier. Either you decrease your expenses, the one you have now, the one you will have in the future, or you increase your income, the one you have now, the one you will have in the future. So the question you should ask yourself is not what's the secret to wealth, because you just have to decrease your expenses or increase your income, but it's how you do it. And that's a much more interesting question, because there is no universal answer, because everyone lives a different life, everyone is in a different situation, everyone has different objectives. And so what might work for me might not work for someone else, and therefore I have different investment goals, different investment ways. And that's why the first thing you should do is to think about why you should invest. Because investors usually think about the return on investment, about what they want to gain in the future. But that's not good, because money itself won't make you happy. It's what you do with the money that will make you happy. And that's why you should think about your motivation and translate it into a goal. Because if you determine the type of investment you will do, for example, let's say you are close to retirement, and then you're thinking about investing in cryptocurrency or in a very volatile stock. That's not good, Because when you're close to retirement, you want to have an easy life. You don't want to spend a lot of money. And the thing is, you're not sure what's going to happen if you invest in crypto because it's very volatile. Although it's fine when you're 20 or 30 years old, it's not when you are at retirement because you are to protect your golden nest. And that's why I suggest that you use the smart framework, meaning that your goal has to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bounded. So in the case of my book, in one of the examples I use, for example, if you're close to retirement, you want that let's say you want that within 10 years when you retire, you get 5,000 ringgits of income every month on real estate. That's a goal that is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-bounded. And with this kind of goal, you know exactly what type of investment you should do. So that's a very useful goal. And also with this type of goal, you know that you shouldn't invest in crypto because that's not what you want to accomplish. It's not going to help in your long-term growth. So once you define your objectives, that was the first step. The second step is how to invest. Because a lot of you might think that I don't have any money to invest. That's why the second step is about building strong financial foundation to make sure you have enough money to invest. So how do you do this? The first step is to evaluate your assets and liabilities. So here on this table, you can see that on the left side, you put all your assets, meaning like if you have a house, a car, or if you have stocks, or if you have a cash in your bank account. Put everything on the left. On the right side, you put all your debt. So that can be mortgage, that can be car, that can be student loan, everything. And the idea is that you start to look at it on the paper and you start to evaluate what you have and say, okay, do I have any asset that's great cash for me? Or do I have a big loan to refund? The idea is really to evaluate the situation and know what you can do with it in the future. So the second step is to look at your income statement. And you do the same thing as that. On the left side, you put all your income, and on the right side, you put all the expenses that you have for the next months and the next year. And the idea with that is really to realize what's going on, basically, so that you really understand where your money comes from and where it goes. And that's where you will be able to really optimize your financial situation. Because here are 5 things you can do to optimize your financial situation. The first one is to refinance all your loans. If you look here, you said that okay, I have a big important mortgage loan that is 8% that I did 5 years ago. But maybe now the interest rates are much lower. And therefore, even a decrease of 0.5% of your interest rate can drastically reduce the amount you will pay over time. You will save tens of thousands of ringgits over the years without doing anything. That's the first thing you want to do. Is refinancing your loan. It's going to take you maybe 2 hours to go all around the banks, and you will know for sure if you can save tons of money out of that. Second step is to pay off your highest interest rate debt. So let's say you have a personal debt that is at 10% or more. Those type of debts are really going to be a big burden on financial freedom in the future. So that's why you should pay those as soon as possible. Because whatever investment you think about doing, it won't be as good as paying the 10% and above. That's the thing. The third one is to reduce the expenses that don't change your life. And that's why you should look at it. Let's say you look at your budget here and you see that you have a Maxis bill for your phone that you pay, just something like that, let's say you pay 200 ringgits per month. And then you realize that, okay, there is the competitor that offer me 150 ringgits per month to do exactly the same thing. So you won't have better phone conversation or do better internet research with the exact, with another operator. It's going to be the same thing. But you're going to save 50 ringgits per month. And that's going to save you 600 ringgits per year without changing anything. And that's why it's important that you do this budget. It's really to realize what you have and what you cannot do. The second one, the fourth one, is reduce the expenses that will change your lives. And that's a much more complicated one. Because here it's really about yourself, what you think. So let's say that you go to the restaurant quite often, so maybe you should reduce it. Or let's say you go to Starbucks every morning and that costs you 20 minutes every morning. Maybe that's something that you should think about to not do anymore, just prepare the coffee at home. Everything depends on you. My talk here is not to tell you must eat rice every day, don't go out and stuff like that. No. It's really, you look at your situation, you think about what you should do and what should be good for your financial future. And the last one is to create an emergency fund. It's also extremely important to have some money on the side to pay for emergency bills. So let's say you have a big emergency at the hospital, you don't have enough cash, you don't have an emergency funds. What you do, you have to sell the investment, or you take credit card debt. And those are going to be a really big burden in your future as well. So that's why it's important to create as soon as possible an emergency fund. So, to recap, second step to build strong financial foundations, evaluate your asset and liability, create a budget, optimize your expenses, and have an emergency funds. Now, the third step, what you're going to invest in. So in my book, I talk about 10 assets. I did this presentation last time, it took 2 hours, so I might not do it now. Today, we're just going to talk about financial assets, real estate, and gold. But if you're interested to know more about how to invest in your career, please. Think about why should we invest in. The S&P 500 would have earned a return of 10% per year over the last 20 years. There is also very low barrier to entrance. You just need a bank account, internet, and basically a computer or a phone, and you can trade online. It's very easy. The third one is liquidity. In a couple of seconds, you can buy and sell shares. It doesn't take you anything, really, really fast. It's also flexible, meaning that you can have a very aggressive investment strategy where you buy stocks, or you can have a much more conservative strategy where you buy bonds or state bonds that are very safe. It's also a way to diversify your portfolio where you can buy assets that will invest automatically in hundreds of different stocks. You diversify your portfolio automatically. Then what you can invest in financial assets, you can invest, as I said, in stocks, in bonds. So stocks are part of companies, bonds are simply debts. You can invest in mutual funds. So to invest in mutual funds, you go to see the bank, and as a banker will say, okay, I'm going to invest it for you with these funds, and you just give me that amount of money, let's say 5,000 ringgit, and I will allocate you to achieve your performance, to achieve your objective. That's also a really good type of investment for people who don't have a lot of financial knowledge. Or you can also invest in Etf and Index, and in that case, you're basically investing in the whole part of the market. It's the S&P 500, and you're investing in the 500 biggest companies in America. So that's one way to invest. Now, to talk about real estate, why do people invest in real estate? Simply to get passive income. If you receive a monthly rent every month. Capital appreciation. You buy a piece of land, you sell it 10 years after, and you hope that the price is going to appreciate over time. Diversify, because buying real estate is basically buying physical assets that diversify from your financial assets. It's also leverage, because you can basically borrow money from the bank to buy real estate, and it's one of the only way you can borrow money from the bank to buy investment like this. They have those specific mortgage loans for this purpose on, and it's also considered more safe. Then what to buy? A lot of people only think about buying an apartment or eventually a condo, but actually you can buy land, you can buy commercial, you can buy mixed use, you can buy parking, and in Malaysia you can even buy REIT, which is Real Estate Investment Trust. And basically you invest in a company that owns let's say a big building, and that's the company who take care of everything. So they take care of the landlord, basically. They take care of the rents, of doing the repair and everything. So that's a good way for you, if you don't want to be a landlord, to still invest in real estate. to invest in those funds. There are also a lot of different strategies you can go with. You can invest in the long term, in the short term, you can do house hacking, house flipping, a lot of strategy about real estate that we can discuss later on if you want. And but when you invest in real estate, you really have to think about the type of real estate you want to do, what type of people are going to be in your place. Are you looking for a studio with students? Are you looking to have people who are close to retirement? So the type of people you want to have in your apartment, in your real estate, will definitely define the type of investment you should do. And when you do when you have to choose also the real estate investment you want to do, you really have to think about the neighborhoods. You have to think about the location, about the amenities you can find. You have to think about the access, the nuisance, and the return on investment you think you're going to have into your real estate. So there are lots of factors that you should consider when doing real estate. It's not something that you visit a house and you say, yes, it looks good, I want to live in there, so everyone wants to live in there, it's going to make a great return. No, there are lots of research you should do before investing in real estate. Real estate is really an investment purpose. You should look at it with the eyes of the investor and not the eyes of the homeowner. That's the two different ways you should really look at it. And the third investment I wanted to talk about today is investing in gold and other precious metal. So why people invest in gold? First of all, the scarcity. So we only have about 20 years of gold reserve worldwide that we can still mine. So gold is a finite resource. And a lot of people think that it's going to increase a lot in value over the next 20 years because we're not going to be able to mine it anymore, or not the way we are doing it currently. It's considered a safe value. It's a way to diversify. You can increase over time, and you can also easily give it as an inheritance. So how does it work? The gold and other precious metal, there are three parts in the price. The first part is the ounce, the troy ounce. So this is the metal itself. So here this is a silver coin. This is 2 troy ounce silver coins, meaning that it's worth the current price about 30 euro. Sorry, I'm talking about it in euro. About 30 euro of the metal. That's called the spot price. Then you have the taxes. In Belgium, we have 10% taxes on this. It means that there is 3 euro on the 30 spot price. And then there is the premium. The premium is all the person you buy it from. So everyone has their margin and so on. So I bought these coins at first at 50 euro in total, meaning that there was a premium of 70 euro I thought. Today, because it increased in value over time and because it was a collection coin, it increased, it basically doubled in value. It's worth now about 95 euro. That's the premium increase in price. It's not the spot price, it's not the taxes, it's really the premium increase in price. So that's something you should really consider when you invest in gold and other precious metals. It's the collectible value, it's the historical value. All of those have to be considered. How can you buy gold and other precious metal? You can buy it in coin. This one is a bullion coin, meaning that it's doing in big quantity. There is the proof coin that are really that comes usually in a small box with certificates. They are in absolutely perfect condition, but they are very, very limited. And there is the uncirculated coin, which is kind of a mix between the two. You can also buy in bars of silver and gold. You can buy digital gold. So basically, you go to the refiners. And the refiners are going to sell you digital gold of a real bar. They basically cut a bar into a small portion and they sell it digitally. So the advantage is that you can buy it from home. You don't need to receive and to own the physical gold yourself. And you can also buy in jewelry or in financial assets. Investing in companies that trade directly with gold. So we're talking about refiners, we're talking about miners, and everyone's handling into the gold business. Where to get it? The best is directly from the mint, because you are sure that it's genuine. The problem with gold and other precious metal is that there are lots of fake. And by buying directly from the producer, that this coin is from the Royal Mint from UK, you are sure that it's not a fake one. And especially if you start to put a lot of money on it and you buy it from reseller, that could be tricky because a lot are faking it. So when you buy it from a reseller, you have to make sure that it's a certified one. You can buy it on an online platform, or you can also buy it from the bank directly. I know that UOB is still selling gold right now, and you can still buy physical gold from UOB. So that was the 3 type of investment I wanted to talk today. And now to recap a bit everything we have learned. So when you want to do your investment plan, when you think about what you want to do in the future, you have 3 steps to do. First, it's really to define your objectives, why you want to do it, because that will define the type of investment you will do. Then you have to evaluate your situation. You look at your assets, your liability, your income, your expenses, and you look at what you can improve by refinancing, paying off your debt, reduce your expenses that don't change your habits, reduce the expenses that change your habits, and create an emergency fund. And finally, you look at what to invest, and you make a list of all the things you have to do during this year. And once you're done with this list, you start to work on your investment. And then the next year, you recreate the same list again, and you see how you evolve. You look at your objective, you look again at your assets, liability, expenses, income, and you look at how you can improve. You look at what you're going to do this year, and the next year, and the next year. And that's how you invest. That's how you make an investment plan. And that's it for today. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for investment 101, I would say. But before I open the floor, I have some questions for you.
Okay.
Mm.
I'm scared.
No, don't be scared. First of all, let's know about you. Why do you invest in being an author in Malaysia, in Penang specifically? I think that is one form of investment because in your book you said career is an investment. So why do you choose this path?
I choose the girl, actually. She's just there. I just follow her here. We first came out with a beautiful book. She really wanted to write a book, so we said, why not creating a publishing company? And when she was done with her books, I was investing a lot at the time, and I was thinking, well, I got a lot of knowledge. And I was a bit annoying because I had to learn a lot from different books, and I was always annoyed by 2 things. Either the books were very general, and they did not teach me anything about investing. Like you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, it's a great book. It will teach you really a mindset about investing, but it doesn't teach you anything about investing itself. After reading this book, I didn't know how to invest in real estate, in stocks, or anything. So that was one of the type of the book that I didn't like. And the second type of book, it was when they were like very specific. When you look at the Intelligent Investors, it's a really great book. It teaches you a lot about stocks, but it doesn't take into consideration your needs or anything else. So I had to read dozens and dozens of books before I was able to finally start, and I was confident to start to invest. And after all that, I was thinking, well, since we're doing the publishing company, maybe a lot of people are like me. And I was thinking, that's a bit annoying that I have to go through so many books to be able to invest. And that's basically why I created the book. It's the book I wish I had in my hands when I started to invest.
Okay. So the investment in this career is influenced by another person. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry for the long answer.
No. That is another form of investment, I believe, right? In that person. Oh yes, investment for life. Yes, you're right. So in your book, you also mentioned something about misconception. I noticed, those are some misconception or myth, investment myth that many would believe. So you mentioned about 7 or 5, I forgot. Okay, never mind. You can buy the book and find out about the misconception. But one thing I want you to highlight is the first 2 points is you're not too young to invest, and you're also never too old to invest. So for those who are not investing, are you trying to say like they are missing out?
Yes, there is. The short answer is yes, basically. There is a misconception to say that, okay, I have time in the future to think about that. But if you do that, you will miss on a very important principle called the compound interest. And the compound interest is basically the snowball effect, meaning that if you can invest and reinvest your interest, over time it will grow exponentially. So let's say you invest 1,000 ringgits today, and you got a 10% return on 1 year. So that's a really good return. So you will receive 100 ringgits of interest, and that's 1,100 that you have at the end of the year. Let's say you continue to invest that amount of money, then the next year, and you get also that 10% of interest. It's not on 1,000; it's on 1,100. And so your interest this year is 110, meaning that at the end you have 1,210. It doesn't seem a lot at the beginning, but when it grows over time, it can really exponential. When you talk about 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you really multiple the end value of your profits by a margin of by 4 or by 5. So the younger you invest, the better it is, because you have this compound effect that's going. And also, when you're too old, a lot of people could say also that they are too old to invest. And it's a bit more complicated because you don't have, usually when you're too old, you don't want to invest in speculative assets that you can do when you're young because you have a lot of time. But it's still a good time to invest because it's better to do something than nothing, basically. It's better to take control of your financial life now than having the world control it for you. So that's it.
Okay. Do you get it? I think I half get it, but okay. I know investment should start as soon as you can.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw one of the 5 things that you showed on the slides about building emergency fund. Yeah, for those who are not investing, please do that first. I think that's very, very important. But for those who are investing, I noticed you pick the words from Warren Buffett that if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. Wouldn't savings help at least a little bit? Savings. I saw somewhere else you also mentioned about some savings concept like 10% savings.
Yeah, this is from the 10% savings. It's from the richest man in Babylon. It's a nice story. I highly advise his book. But the idea is that on the day you receive your salary, you should try to invest 5 to 10%. You should try to save 5 to 10% of your salary and put it into another account, something that you never touch, basically. And the idea with that is that you will, since you don't touch that money, you will have to make sure that you live with the 90 or 95% of your remaining cash. And basically, you have to adapt your lifestyle to this to these savings. And that's the best way that you can start to invest, is really to open a separate bank account that doesn't cost you anything, and you can just transfer 5% to 10% of what you receive every month to make sure that you that you make your investment in yourself automatic. Because a lot of people just usually spend the money, they receive the salary, and then they spend it, and say, okay, I will save whatever they have left at the end of the month. And usually nobody has anything left at the end of the month. So that's why it's better to do it at the beginning.
Okay, so savings is a form of investment.
Yeah.
Okay, you would agree to that.
Yeah.
So if it is savings, for instance, I'm speaking from a mom's perspective. As my salary comes in, not only I have to send some remittance to my parents, I have to have my own saving account. So that's one account. I have to have my son's saving account. That's 2 other. I think 10% would be a lot in Malaysian term, especially when we are paying EPF. That's already 11% off. For those who are paying tax, that's about another few hundred off. So at the end of the day, you're probably taking back about 70 to 80%. You are already living in an 80% kind of way of life, and you have to minus the 10% from the 80% away. That seems a lot. Even if it is 5%, it still seems a lot. So in that case, in a Malaysian perspective, would you suggest maybe to start even with a quantum instead of percentage?
The percent, there is no hard rules about it. It just this book, like, we're really suggesting, I think it was 10%, but there is no iron rules that said you have to put 10%. It's actually whatever you can, and you should maybe start with 5% and see how it goes. And if it doesn't work, then you start with 2% or 1%. But try to be consistent. That's the idea. And if you cannot save on that, then you could really try to do a budget and look at where you can. Well, you saw it before. You can just look at a budget and see if there is way to try to reduce your expenses, to try to see if there are ways to improve your financial situation. That's why it's important to have this, to really build this strong financial foundation before starting really to invest, and make sure you have solid basis before you go on and take the first step.
Yeah. So would you suggest, after reading so many books on investment and all, would you suggest that so-called strong solid base is after you have minus all your expenses and you have the remaining, and from the remaining you have enough for your emergency fund, and then you use that actual remaining for investment?
I would suggest to build first the emergency funds, actually. So with your savings of 5%, to start to build the emergency fund first. That's the first thing you do. And then after that, you look at once you have done with your emergency fund, it can take 1 year, it can take 2 years, and it's totally fine. As long as you make progress and you improve and you getting closer to your objectives every year, that's good, that's progress. And there is really no hard rules about it.
The reason why I am borrowing your slides to show this is, would you categorize them into maybe by risk or maybe by reserve position that you have, or by time for investment? Because frankly, for financial assets like stocks and bonds, maybe I could start with as low as 500 ringgit, example, to start that investment. But for real estate, I probably need 500,000, right? So if this is the case, would you categorize them in some way to help people know your limit, sort of? Yeah.
Well, actually, for the stock market, you can start with 500 ringgit. You can even start lower than that. It's really not a problem. And for real estate, you can also actually start like stocks. It's not because you cannot buy the physical asset in itself. They will probably ask you to, let's say you want to buy a condo and it's at an apartment here in Penang, and it's at 500,000 ringgits. They will ask you to have a deposit of 10%. So it's 50,000 ringgits. So maybe you can fix that if you talk back into the creating the plan. Oh, sorry. Oops. Maybe you can fix that as your objective, that you want to have this 50,000, and then you look at how you can save to improve on that. But let's say that it's going to take a while for you. If you can save only let's say 500 ringgits per 5 ringgits per month, is going to take a while. But you can also already invest in what's called real estate investment trust. So I talk a little bit about it in here. So it's basically companies that are, so I talk a little bit more about it in the book, but those companies are they own a lot of different real estates. Usually they own hundreds of buildings and they are the landlords. They do both things. Either they are the landlords where they receive rent, or they buy, they build, and they sell. And they are required by Malaysian law to give back 90%, no, 90, of their revenue into dividends. So that way, if you invest in those companies, and you can invest in those companies by owning shares of those companies, you are indirectly a landlord that will touch 90% of the rentals, even with something as low as 100 ringgits. You lose that 10%, but that 10% is work that you have not to do, because the landlord has to look for the tenant, they have to do the repair, they have to come back to them when they don't pay and everything. So that's that 10% fee, let's say, to make the company work, basically. So if you don't have a lot of money, you can still find ways to invest in assets. And most assets, you can find ways like this to try to invest. You can really start slow and it's not a big deal. Even some stocks that you want to invest. Let's say that you want to invest in
Alphabet company.
The stocks is at last time I checked, about $1,000 or something like that. Let's say it's $1,000. You don't have 4,000 ringgits with you on hands, but what you can do is buy fractional shares. So instead of buying the whole one share of that company for 4,000 ringgits, you can buy 1/4 of that share. And that's going to cost you 250 ringgits. So it's more affordable and you can actually get it. So you can really start slow.
$250.
$250, sorry. I'm confused.
Okay, yeah. So now that you're on this point, would you then suggest, if, when you're in stocks and or financial assets and all of that, you literally have agents like in all this business. Would you trust yourself more, or you would just ask the agent to do it? For example, you in stock market you have possibly a romancer or two to advise you on stuff. So would you just rely more on them, or would you, I don't know, do a lot more homework while you're off work, off duty, with free time, not let the child cry at the side and continue with the homework?
Personally, I will do the work, but as I said, everyone has different situation, and that's something I really acknowledge in the book. Is that I know that I don't mind like looking at financial statement, analyzes really hard the companies and really going into the numbers of the company, and every month looking back and doing my research. And I don't mind that because I enjoy it. I enjoy the research, but I know that very, very little people are enjoying doing that. Very little people enjoy doing this kind of homework. And that's why it can be fine to have some help. It really depends on your situation. If you want to have a banker that can help you with, oops, I'm gonna come back here. If you don't want to do the research, you have really two types of assets you can do. You can either invest in the mutual funds, like I said before, and it's a banker who's gonna really advise you based on your objective. You can tell them, okay, I'm conservative, or I'm kind of aggressive. I have a lot of funds, I have a lot of years in front of me, or say that in 5 years I want to do this, I want to do that. And that person can advise you. So that banker can invest for you in a mutual funds. So those are great because they really hold your hands and help you. And it's totally fine. If you don't feel that you are capable, you have the time to do the research, and then still fine to go with this kind of service. But you have to take into consideration that the agent is not working for free. And it's going to take a share of a commission, basically, and you're gonna lose your return over time because of that. And the second tool that you can invest in is an ETF. So an ETF is called an exchange traded fund. So those you can do a very little research in. Basically, 1 hour you are done with your research, and you decide to say, okay, I want to invest in the USA. I really believe that the country is going to do great in the future. So I will invest in the 500 biggest company in America. And you can do that through an ETF that follow those 500 companies. That way you don't have to do your research, because those companies, you know that those companies could do well over time. And that's actually an investment that's advised by Warren Buffett himself. He said that.
This way. Put it this way.
Sorry. He said that most people should actually invest in ETF and don't do research on stock markets or bonds themselves. 90% of the population should invest in those kind of ETF because those ETF actually do also better than the mutual funds. If you are able to do a little bit of research into the ETF, honestly, just a couple of hours, and you will see that there are much more potential for return over time than on the mutual funds. Sorry.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you my one last question before I open the floor for Q&A session. So now, I'm not sure how familiar you are with this group of people, YOLO. You only live once. So with this group of people, they will possibly just, I don't know whether I'll be able to leave tomorrow. So I'm gonna spend all my money today. So if this is the case, what would be your best advice for them? In case anyone's watching is in that category, I'm sorry, but just in case.
There is this people on Wall Street bets that did that about 2 years ago, where they basically made a huge investment. They were putting all their savings into derivatives, that's called options. And those are basically a way to invest in the stock markets and exponentially. Meaning that if you're right on your bet and you're really making a bet, you're saying that, okay, if the stock market hits, let's say $10 within 6 months, I can make that much money. And it's really exponential. They can make a lot of money out of it. The problem is it's exponential both ways. So when the market is doing great, that's fine. And a lot of people became, and especially young people, became millionaires with that. They made let's say a half an hour research online onto very complicated financial tools that are called options. And they thought they were experts and they just follow some quick advice online and they invest all their saving in that. And it's not investing, this is really gambling, and it's really dangerous to do because some people really earn a lot of money out of it. And you see those stories online because they are really portrayed, but you don't see the 95% of the population that actually lose all their savings because of that. Investing is not something that should be super exciting where you have a range of adrenaline that if you don't hit that number, you're gonna die. No, investing should be actually boring. There is a famous quote that investing should be like looking your grass growing. Or just painting. It's really, it doesn't have to be something where you don't know if you're gonna make it or you're gonna die. No, it's just you create a plan for the next couple of years and you adapt your plans and over time it will work out. It's something that it doesn't have to be exciting. It should be boring to be good investing actually.
Didn't somebody die from the financial crash because they invest everything?
Yeah, a lot of people. That happen actually a lot of time. And every financial crisis, there are people who jump from roof. In 2008, during the financial crisis in London, there was a restaurant that was famous for that actually, where the trader would go on the top of the restaurant. They had a nice last meal, and a couple just jump out of that roof. Yeah.
Oh wow, that is enough from me. So enough from me.
So don't YOLO.
Don't YOLO, people. Don't YOLO. All right. So first question, gentlemen. The microphone is there. Thank you.
Could you share as to what are the assets that you have in your own portfolio and what kind of ratio that they occupy in your portfolio, and what kind of average return are you targeting for your own portfolio each year?
It really depends actually. If I go back to the thing, okay. So I used to be in a career before, so I was heavily invested in my career, where most of my time I was thinking about my career. But now I'm heavily invested in my business, and I would say this is probably about 25% of my portfolio needs. I have a lot of financial assets. I would say it's also about 20% of what I have into mostly stocks, but also ETF. And the biggest part is in real estate because, although you can invest in real estate investment trust, I invest in physical real estate. And here I would say I have about 45. I don't have the exact number, but about 40%. I also have about 5% in gold and other precious metals. For collectibles, don't really have, although some of my gold and silver coins are considered collectibles. I don't invest in wine, but I study it heavily to put in my book, and I talk with a lot of experts about it. The same with art, and the same with cryptocurrency and NFT. So those assets I don't have. But I took the time to put it in the book because I know that, for example, wine is not an investment that I like because I'm not passionate about wine. But it's not because I don't want to invest in wine that's not good for me that I shouldn't put it. And that's why I also put cryptocurrency in here. Because I know that some people are really interested, are passionate about it. And there are some specific rules that exist about portfolio ratio. They generally suggest, because I suppose that was kind of the question that was going on, was more about having an important part in financial asset, let's say 30 to 40%, same in real estate, and about 10% in gold. If you want to risk it a bit, you can have some cryptocurrency, art, wine, collectible with the remaining of your funds. But once again, it really depends on the situation because those are general rules for general population. Everyone is different. If you're close to retirement, if you're young, if you travel all the time, your type of lifestyle, your objectives will really define your type of investment. So that's why I don't like to give. I was thinking to give like fixed numbers into my book, but then I was like, it doesn't work well because everyone really is different, and they should just go with what will work with their plan. Actually.
Okay, thank you. Any other question? Yes, David. The mic is coming.
I think it's okay. Never mind. Good evening, Kevin. I hope I pronounced your name right.
Perfect.
Because I see there's a thunder above the E. I don't know what it means.
Try the last name.
Never mind. That's harder. Okay. My question is this. Actually, I want to know who is your target audience when you write this book. Because, for instance, I've got children in their late 20s and 30s. They will look at investment differently from me and old codger. So in terms of, say, people in their 20s, 30s, up to the 40s, and in terms of, shall we say, gross annual income in ringgit terms, say 60,000, 100,000, 200,000 a year. So who is your target audience for this book? Thank you.
Well, actually, I've seen a child of 12 years old read my entire book, takes a lot of notes and everything. So really, really depends. I would say in general, I would say everyone, but interested in investment. That's the thing. I've talked with people that were 20 years old, that were 40 years old, that were 50, 60, 70 years old. And everyone is at a different stage in life. And the book was interesting for them for different reasons. And that's why I really like with my book is that it's very versatile. The subtitle is Create Your Path to Wealth. And that's what I really focus into the book is that the situation is really different. I would say in general, people are more interested into that book when they have no knowledge at all about investing because they said, okay, I really need to have a guide that would bring me to A to Z. And that's what this book is. It's really a guide that brings you to A to Z. It will give you a lot of definition and everything. For someone who is like very specialized in stocks who knows a lot about it, it is still interesting because although they might not learn anything into the financial assets part, they might be interested into the collectible part. They might be interested into the gold part, or even the wine part, and try to understand why some bottle of wine are priced at 500 ringgits and some at 50 ringgits, for example. And that's what you learn in the book. In terms of revenue, of a growth income per year, once again, you can start with very small. And the idea of the book is like the really first part is really about your objective, and the second part is really about optimizing what you have. So there is no minimum that you should have. This book, whatever revenue you have, if you read it, I'm pretty sure that you're going to learn something that's going to save you a lot of money over time. It can save you a bit of money over time, at least.
So in other words, he means when you're 20, you focus on your career side. Then when you're later, I mean, maybe 10 years later, you can read the book again and you think about it differently.
That's true.
So,
actually, yeah.
so that's in, okay, so now that you mentioned all this, suddenly I have more questions.
Okay.
I have more questions. Would you consider insurance a financial asset, or it's just simply an expenditure?
Yeah, it is, but I didn't put it into the investment. It's more into the when you are doing your budget part. When you look at your expenses and of what you have to consider what is absolutely necessary. But also in the book, I talk about insurance. I go briefly over it. Let's say you have a house, and I thought that you absolutely need to insure this house. Or if you have health problem, you should really think about those type of insurance as well. So that's also something you should consider, but I didn't put it into that last part where it's about investing. It's more about how do you look at what you currently have and when you evaluate your situation.
Yeah, because nowadays, again, mother me talking, yes. Mother me talking is like, first thing when I'm pregnant, I would go for a health insurance for my baby. Because once he is diagnosed with something, no insurance would insure him.
Mm-hmm.
So would you then consider that as investment in health for like financially for them, for me, myself even, or you wait until maybe I'm 30, 40, no, I'm 40. No, not yet. That you wait until you're this age before you start investing in like health insurance, because then, there are different circumstances. Once you are diagnosed, then you get loading, you have to pay a lot of considerations.
Mm-hmm.
And there are also like savings plan, there are like, okay, I do not know what other plans there are because those are the ones that I bought. So yeah, pure expenses or partial investment.
Well, it is considered really a safety net, and it's a good point. Although I didn't go through vast details into it because I was more focused into those type of assets, that's definitely considered a safety net, and that you should definitely have it as soon as possible. You should look at your lifestyle and what you have, what you think you're going to have in the future, and try to protect it. Because as you said, you never know what's going to happen. And if you have a deformity or if you have a problem, health problem that will cause the issue later on, that's definitely something you should do as fast as possible.
Consider that emergency fund? No.
Not
Safety net?
No, not really. It's not really an emergency fund. It's more like really part of your expenses. But then you can also look at if you are overinsured, because that happened to a lot of people also. Then they end up have like 2 or 3 different insurance. They were paying for 2 or 3 different insurance, and they didn't know they have, and they were covering basically the same thing. So that's why when you do your budget, it's also good to look at what you have, but also, like you said, what you should have as well.
Gareth, I'm going to pass my mic to you.
Kevin, just a very quick question. Would you give us a really honest appraisal, in your mind, of the last 2, cryptocurrency and non-fungible tokens, the pros and the cons? Because when I was editing the book, I could see the kind of material reality of all the other possibilities. But as we know, the cryptocurrency scandals that have been there and so on. And I still can't get my brain around quite how NFTs work. I've read your book, I edited your book, but it still was something, it's like all that solid melts into air. It's like something that I couldn't quite grasp. But what's your reading of those two particular possibilities at the moment? Be honest about it.
Well, from my point, thank you for the question. And yeah, at first, I will be totally honest, I'm not a big fan into cryptocurrency and NFT. But it doesn't mean that it's not a good investment in itself. The thing is, cryptocurrency and NFTs are technology. And like any other technology, they could be replaced by something else. And they bring a lot of improvement into life. And they bring also challenges. And the problem with for me, my main issue with cryptocurrency and NFT is that people don't see that as the technology, as what they are. They see it as the speculation. People who invest in NFTs and crypto were basically buying the fact that they're going to sell it later at a higher price. We don't caring at all about the technology itself. They're saying, okay, I'm buying the Bitcoin now at 20,000 and I hope it's going to be 100,000, 500,000, 1 million, without giving any reason for that purpose. And that's why there are a lot of people who buying NFTs, like Justin Bieber bought Bored Ape NFT, which was like pictures of a monkey, basically, for $3 million. And now this is estimated at $40,000, meaning that it lost 99% of its value. And when he bought it, he said that just buy it because everyone buy it, basically. He doesn't care about the technology. And the technology itself, it's what is actually interesting, it's the purpose of it. So for those who doesn't know what an NFT is, let's imagine you have a car. And because when you think about an NFT, everyone think about the picture, like of the monkey, basically, that I just said, about the Bored Ape. But the thing is that an NFT is just a line of code that said that you own that picture, that's it. So let's say you have a car, basically. The NFT is the paper inside your car that said, okay, that's that person who owned. That's a certificate that said that you own that car. That's it. It's not the pictures itself. That's what the NFT is. And so a lot of people were investing in that without even knowing that's what it was. But this technology is actually interesting for specific things. Let's say when we talk about collectibles, let's say you want to buy a Rolex. It's a very expensive watch. The problem with Rolex is that there are lots of fake. And there is honestly no way to know what is true and what is not true, because they also fake the small certificates and everything. Now what they start to do with NFT is that inside the watch you have a QR code, and that QR code says, okay, that person buy the NFT. So you're sure that that person buy the NFT because it's directly linked to the website of the company. And that's something you cannot fake, because you go directly to the website of the company that said that person buy it, and you have the proof that it's that NFT. If that if someone tried to sell you that specific watch without the NFT, it means that it's a fake. So that's why the NFT could be useful. And that's only one of the applications of the NFTs. There are also a lot of different type of applications that are actually interesting. But the problem is nobody buy it for that purpose. Everyone buy it for most of people buy it for the speculative aspect of it. And it's a very young asset. We still don't know what's going to happen in the next 5-10 years and how the technology is going to evolve.
Because at the beginning of the book, you lay out very clearly, this is not about gambling.
Yeah.
And yet, of all the possibilities, it seemed to be NFT was precisely about gambling. And a follow-up question: what do you see the broader impact of AI, of artificial intelligence, on the whole spectrum of investment? You see it? I mean, it is going to have an impact, but how do you read those possible impacts?
The thing is that nobody still knows exactly how it's going to impact it. There are some sectors that you can see very clearly the impact is already there, like in copywriting. I'm pretty sure that you are the first one to notice it, how it can really affect it. But there are some indirect effect with it, because some people are like I know that some people are trading with AI. They're creating bots that are basically let's say, okay, create me an automatic trader that will invest for me, or create an investment plan for me. The problem now with AI is that it's still not great yet, because you can ask a lot of questions that can help you. They can really definitely help you, but it's still not 100% safe to just blindly trust into the AI yet. So it will have an impact in absolutely, honestly, I think every sector, some more than others, but let's see the future, what's going to happen.
So which is more dangerous? Not investing at all, or listen to your friends and invest?
I'd say
You
that
don't have to answer.
no. Because you give the possibilities, but either you don't invest or you just listen to him and blindly invest. There is also a third possibility, is that you listen to your friends and that you make your own research and then you start to invest. So for me, that's more the things, is that you should never blindly trust into someone. Even Warren Buffett, who is arguably the best investor in the world, his right-hand man is Charlie Munger. And they are both 90 years old, and they have one of the biggest companies in the world, which is Berkshire Hathaway. And still at 90 years old, they have worked together for 60 years. They always bicker about investing, and they never blindly trust each other. They always counter arguments. Even the best investor in the world never trusts another fellow that is also considered the best investor in the world. So should you listen to your neighbors who heard from a guy who watched a video on YouTube that this is something good? Probably not.
Right? Key takeaway, right? If you don't, trust him. Oh yeah, are you going to start a business as agent or something? I'm pretty sure I can invest. Yeah, there's another question from the floor.
So, actually, before I ask my next question to Kevin, if I could just help you, Miss, on your question on insurance, it's actually, insurance is more of a wealth transferring vehicle, because you don't actually, because when we buy insurance, it's actually not, most of the time, so not actually to benefit yourself, but it's actually to benefit someone else, and usually your descendants. So it's more, together with things like wills and trusts, it's more kind of a vehicle for transferring wealth rather than investment. Although there are certain varieties of insurance that you can look at it as investment, because in a way, actually, it's quite a powerful investment, because you can actually multiply, there's that multiplier effect. By the amount of premium you pay, you can actually multiply 5 times, 10 times, whatever, depending on the insurance policy that you have. Anyway, sorry, Kevin, you mentioned earlier on that you are investing into business. I was just wondering whether you might be able to just share with us a bit about what you mean when you say you're investing into your business.
First of all, for the insurance part, the thing is that in the insurance, there are many different kinds. And it's not only about transferring the money to your descendant, because, for example, you put an insurance on your house, and this is really to protect your assets for yourself, but also, for your descendants. And there are lots of different, let's say, rules about the insurance, and also a lot of financial advantage as well, because if you insured in that specific area, you can definitely get back some money from the government. I didn't talk much into the insurance also. It's because my book, I'm selling it basically all over the world. It's in the UK, it's in the US, it's here in Malaysia. And it's very difficult with insurance because they are so linked to the law and into basically, and by country. Every country will be different. Now, also to the fact that, because I worked as an insurer for a couple of years, and you said that you can multiply your value by 5 or 10. That's actually not true, because one of the principles of the insurance is that you protect that money. So you cannot, well, at least in Belgium, maybe there are some really specific insurance. You cannot say that, okay, I'm insuring my house for 5 million ringgits when it's only worth 1 million, because the insurer will come and say, oh, let's say there is a fire, and say, oh, why did you insure it for 5 millions? This is totally wrong. You are trying to get money out of us. And the reason for that is very simple. It's because if you insure your house for 5 million and it only costs you 1 million, then you have a clear incentive to burn it.
Sorry, I was actually referring to life type of policies.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. There are certain policies like variable universal life. Those kind of policies where you can actually multiply. But of course, you won't be the one benefiting from it, but your beneficiaries or your descendants will be the one that benefit from it. But there are policies that actually, depending upon your age, the younger you are, the higher the multiplier.
Yes.
So the multiplier actually reduces as you get older, but there is a multiplier effect.
Yeah, because they have what's called, there is a price on your life. So that's something really bad from the insurance. But let's say you lose an arm when you are 20 years old. The insurance have actually tables that say how much your arms is cost. And that's something really kind of bad, because you...
Oh yeah, I should be buying his policy, not mine, right? I spent a lot of money. Why didn't you do this earlier? Okay, next question from the floor. Any other question?
Actually, I did not answer the second.
Oh,
Can you repeat it? I'm sorry, because I get carried away with the insurance.
oh.
You mentioned about investing into your business. I was just wondering whether you might be able to just share with us what kind of business or...
Actually, here in the book, I talk about investing in business in general, where I explain how to create your own business if you want to, and how to improve the business. And I talk a lot about different theory in business, like in operation management. I talk about marketing. I talk about finance. And my idea was really to promote the fact that there are a lot of theory out there that you can really improve your own business. And for me personally, my business is into the publishing company that we have, that's called Bull & Press, where we first published Dana's book, and now my own.
Okay. So how many business do you have?
2, actually. I also have another one in Belgium, but this one is small one. So, yeah.
Okay, so he has 2 businesses. I assume you are not having a paid job now, right? In a different company.
No, but I get paid by that's what also is interesting to have different type of investment, is that you get paid. So personally, I got financial asset, I receive dividends from it, I receive real estate, and I have revenue from my different businesses.
Okay, can you, from the 10, is it 10, 2, 4, 6, 11?
10.
10. From the 10 here, which one you're not in?
I got 6 that I'm not in anymore, like career, collections, wine, art, crypto, and NFT.
Okay. So for the wine, this is just personal interest. For the wine, you buy and you don't drink, and then you sell it later.
Actually, there is a trick to it. It's one of my friends who told me that. But you have to be really passionate. What he does, he always buy 2 boxes of wine every month. A box of 10, because he's really passionate about it. A box of let's say 10 bottles. He so he consume one, and then he keep the other one for about 8 to 10 years until it double in value, and then he sell the other one. So basically, he finances his passion.
This is very clever. This mic is very good. Oh my god. This is very clever, actually.
It's not something to get rich quick. It's more about something to really finance your passions, if you are really into it. Because you have to do a lot of research. Because when you see online, there are some, you may have seen some ad that said, okay, if you invest in whiskey or invest in wine and get that much percentage of a return every month or every year. That's true. You can have really great returns if you find the exact one. And I explain in the books how to find the good ones that's going to give you great returns. But what they never tell you is that once you have your bottle, you need to store it. You need to make sure that it's safe for 10 years. And then you also need to sell it, meaning that you have to know the people that's going to buy it for you, the double of the price you paid. And it's not something that's that easily. That's why those 5 investments that I call collectibles, wine, arts, crypto, and NFT, those are more like passion investment that you do really because you are really into the passion of it. You don't really want to have your main focus is not really to get a huge return on it. It's really to learn more about your passion.
Yeah. So, but before I can invest, I need to have the money to buy a box. No. 2 boxes. Okay, forget about that. Any other question? Yes.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi, Kevin. Do you plan to get this book translated into Malay? Honestly speaking, coming from a kampung boy.
He got shocked.
Yeah. Sorry, bro. Sorry, yeah. Yeah, coming from a kampung boy, I find your book is very good because, to be honest, before I started reading your book, I just got to know about all this stuff maybe 5 or 8 years ago, by talking to friends. I have zero knowledge about investing before this, especially being a kampung boy, whereby the exposure towards all this financial knowledge is actually almost zero. So reading your books, to be honest, it helps me a lot in understanding of things that I should invest and what are the investments actually out there. So because it's it's in English, so I believe, let's say you have a Malay translated one, it would be actually better for my community that I can actually share with them. This is a question. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for reading the book first, and I'm glad you like it. But I actually started to translate it in French. The problem is that there are a lot of costs that have to be considered into the translation. So not only me, my time to translate it, but also to have a copywriter to check again for the mistakes, like I did with my book, and also someone to put that in page, and you need to print it. So there are lots of fixed costs into that. So I have to make sure that I sell at least a couple of hundred or thousands to make sure. And I'm not so certain that it's going to be that easy on the Malay market. Even when it's in French, I've been trying to find distributors in France and in Canada, and it's a quite difficult market to enter because those are specifically in France and Belgium, those are monopolistic markets. Unlike in Southeast Asia, where you have a lot of different distributors, it's much more complicated in France. So that's why for the time being, I'm stopping on the translation. And in Malay, although I already have the distributor, I'm not sure the market is how the market will respond to the book. So unfortunately, not yet.
Okay. Any other question? Then calling once. No question? Okay. I have one last question.
Good. You mean you like the book?
I read it. I did. Okay. Here's the thing about investment. Do you think it is about continuity, that you need to do it more to see the results? Or I'm doing this, after reading and reflection. My dad is the type that invests in mutual fund. But the very moment he see earning, he's gonna sell it. He has a bottom line, with this amount, I'm gonna get this. The very moment I see this, I'm gonna sell it. Or you would go for a working mom like me that have expenses. By the time I get the 80% minus all the expenses, I probably have negative 5%. But because EPF, I can still use my EPF account to invest. Then there are noise. You know, EPF is at 6% per annum every time they announce the dividend or the interest. But your investment outside might not reach that at that time. So when you're investing using your EPF fund, you actually lost the interest there. And on the other side, it's worse when it's negative. Oh no, don't look at it. Because like those kind of fund EPF allowed investment is very limited. They want to make sure that you have enough money for retirement. That's why you're not allowed to touch your account one. But they allow members to withdraw their account one for such schemes like mutual fund and approved schemes. So from there, it's like, how do you actually do that calculation? One of your points says pay off your highest interest rate debt. That I would also possibly apply it in keeping your highest interest rate funds wherever, whether it's FD or savings, which is never gonna be the highest, or like EPF at 6%, or take that out for investment and bet on it for 10. I at least have 25 years more before I can touch the fund. Yeah, so that is some consideration that I think many would be worried. Should I touch my EPF money or not? Should I mean, given that I have a negative expenses every month now, that is my only outlet for investment.
So for the first part of your question, when you think about should you be like super active into your investing or more passive about it, that's the beauty about investing. You can make your investment as you want, as your lifestyle. So for example, me, I'm like really into passive investment. That's why I've invested into real estate, where I basically receive money every month, and I don't have to be active about it. I basically work maybe 10 hours per year on my real estate investment, and I still receive money every month about it. So you really designed it, but I have some friends that are invested in real estate as well. But he decided to do short-term rental and into an area that is with a lot of moving in and out, and he has a lot of problem with it. But this was his choice. He wanted to have more return on his investment, so he went to short-term rental. And so he has a lot of work, and he basically worked 10 hours per week, really, into his short-term rentals. Maybe a bit less than that, but that's the idea. You really define the type of investment according to you. There is no right or wrong. Once again, it really depends on you what you want to do. If your goal is to be peaceful, you don't want to do anything, then, for example, invest in those financial assets like ETF or even mutual fund that you don't want to touch. But if you want to be very aggressive, you want to be analyzes everything, it's also fine. And you can invest in stock like this, and you look at it every month and you try to beat the market and to be the best. And as long as you're fine with what you want to do, it really depends on what you want. If you want to be aggressive, if you want to be more active or more passive. But you have to choose investment that will suit that very purpose. So also to come back to the plan, that's why it's also important, because you said, okay, should I take off my my investments after a while or after earning on everything? That's why every year I believe you should do this kind of plan, where you will look at what's your main purpose first, what you want to do in the next 10 years, what is it that you want to achieve. And then you evaluate your situation and you look at the type of assets that you have. And then the next year you reevaluate the situation and you look at your funds and say, okay, does it perform well? Should I continue? Is it still in line with my goal, or should I change that? And only change if that's not aligned anymore with your main goal. But you always have to think about the long term. Never think. That's why it's important to create, once again, the objective, because we always have to have that in mind and determine if that's what's happening now is changing it. Because it's not because everyone is, let's say, in the stock market, everyone say it's a financial crisis, you have to sell everything. But if you only need to use that amount of money in 20 years, and you said, it's the whole market that's going down. It's not the specific companies I'm investing in that are so bad. It's just because everyone's going down, it's going down as well. I just keep it. I even buy even more because it's cheaper now.
Yeah.
So you really have to think about long-term, about your plan, and adapt it.
Okay, conclusion, you have a long-term goal, but the investment activity could be short-term or long-term, depending on your style, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that will be all my question. Other question, I have to do it off mic, like which fund he actually invest in. Ha 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 ha. Okay, all right. So if there's no other question, it'll be queuing, buying, and signing opportunity. And thanks a lot, everyone, for joining us tonight. Thanks, Kevin.